So welcome everybody to our 10th episode of the season 4 of the Zoom Garden Plot. And what do we have today? We're going to have two garden updates. Chad's going to show his home garden, and Shannon will be showing her home garden. We also have a few shots of Carmen's, some of her harvest picks. We have a few announcements, and then we'll do the question and answer. But with no further ado, let's go over to Chad. Go ahead, Chad.
Thank you. Hopefully I didn't get my finger in any of these pictures, but
I edited it out, Chad. I thought about putting that on your cover page, just the thumb section of it, but
thumbnail. I have literal thumbnails pictures.
yeah, exactly. So what's
Oh,
going on in these pics?
all right. So I have a very small backyard in Green Lake, and again, as Sarah probably knows, it's somewhat a lonely, abused garden because I'm always spending time in the community garden. And but the first picture, the blurry one, I'm trying to get elderberries. That we had a very successful elderberry year, and I picked and the squirrels, the birds did not get the elderberries.
Wow.
I tried my fishing line routine that seemed to work, and so I got a ton of elderberries, which is exciting. My wife, we're drying them, and we're going to use them for cough suppressant type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What
did you mean by fishing line? What were you saying?
Well, yeah, last year I didn't get one peach, I didn't get one elderberry, I didn't get one hazelnut. So this year I really bought fishing line and wrapped it around like 3,000 times around the peach tree, the hazelnut tree, the hazelnut bush, and the elderberry bush, trying to keep the squirrels, at least trying to confuse them.
Are you saying like a fish net or a fishing line?
No, because nets I don't really like. Literally fishing line. I was like walking around in circles, wrapping it all in crazy angles to just try to, and it seems to work, because then they bump into it, and I guess it confuses them. So
Wow. Interesting.
I'm hoping, right? Because I tried nets, but that was just kind of annoying, and it kind of hooks on the thing.
Yeah.
But I really wrapped around like 300 times in a circle, just over and over. And, but it's funny, as it's getting heavier, the string is starting to spread out a little bit. So I'm not too cocky, but I did get elderberries. And the bottom you see hazelnuts, which are not ready yet, but hopefully in the next few weeks they will be ready to be harvested. I didn't get any last year. And the other picture is comfrey, which seems to be spreading a bit, but again, it's spreading in areas where I'm okay with it. It's a good nitrogen fixer. I use it for fertilizer. I cut the comfrey and I soak it in a bucket of water for a few weeks, and it smells horrific.
Mm-hmm.
But then I pour a little of that water into a watering can, and that's what I use for fertilizer. And sometimes a little urine I mix in with that, or a separate time, so I put a little urine in some water that also has a lot of nitrogen.
Chad, if you say that too much, all those fertilizer companies are going to get really pissed off.
Yeah, it's funny. That was a big. We had the Dirt magazine kit. That people were very fascinated with the urine conversation, but it is a very good fertilizer. Just saying, I'm not trying to be funny. It's a very useful thing.
So you mean I can't yell at my grandkids anymore for peeing in the yard?
No. Well, you don't want to pee directly on something. You want to dilute it in.
I'll let them know. They'll be thrilled.
But I guess if you go out of the way. Then I have sage, which I really do need to clip and dry. We got a lot of sage, and I've had that sage for 10 years. I brought that sage from Brooklyn, and it keeps on growing beautifully. Yeah, so I focus a lot on perennials in my personal garden, trying to.
The Sage from Brooklyn sounds like the title of a good book.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why Sage from Brooklyn? The middle picture is. I think I have another picture of it, but there's a kind of area that's very shaded. Tree trunks, like it's very hard to do anything. So I let all the berries go wild there. There's wineberry, raspberries. So I have a great season of just picking the berries, and I love it because it's again an area where I can't use anything else. And I do have a pretty little pollinator here growing the red one. I probably don't know the name of it, but I am trying to grow more pretty flowers, which is something I usually did not care at all about, but I realized Sonia gave me a few, and I'm Sonia Mason, who helps us out in the garden. So that's been helpful. And the other picture is borage. I grow that seems to also spread pretty readily. but that's edible, and the pollinators love borage, and you could eat it. It's you want to cook. It's like almost it's a little sharp, so you want to make sure you soften it up a little bit. But I throw it in with salads and everything. It's very delicious. And the next pictures. The one is a cherry tree on which is probably, I think, entering its 4th year. So I had one cherry and the 2nd year it popped up. And I got that from a stick, basically. I ordered that it was basically like a stick in a box. So it's really growing a lot. I'm probably going to have to trim it down this year. It's going to kind of get too big. So I'm hoping in the next year or so that I will get actual cherries. And the bottom is more, that's a further shot of the crazy berry bush of 3 or 4 different type of mixed berries. Then over there I have asparagus in the back. Again, I probably do need to clip that. They said to clip it when it starts, seeding, and I've been a little lax on that.
Hold on.
No, yeah, no clipping.
Not when it's seeding, when they start dying off.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they're green, they're like making the roots strong, and then the roots will pop up the next spring.
Oh, all right. Oh, so I misunderstood. I'm glad I have this Zoom garden plot to correct me. So I'll wait till they die off, and then I will clip the tops. And as you see, I probably I'm kind of letting nature take over, and I have a lot of natural ground cover, probably too much, but I kind of like it. I don't know if my wife likes it that much, but I like it. And next pictures. This is an artichoke, which I've been trying to grow the artichokes for years, and I've not really had much luck. I mean, it's coming along, but it probably won't fully form by the time the season ends. So I've had two. I think I need 2 or 3, but literally, I really want to grow artichokes, but I've not been successful in growing artichokes. But I'm not going to give up. And this one came back from last year, just one. I had 3 at one point, but only one came back. And I think they probably need 2 to fruit, but I'm just going to see how big this one grows. But I got a feeling probably another few inches, and then probably get squished by the winter. And the middle picture is the mulberry tree that I had existing when I first moved in, a giant tree that bothers the neighbors and drops thousands of mulberries all over the place, and I cannot keep up, and I gave away more. And you realize why mulberries cannot be sold in stores, because they don't last very long. They're very messy, but I find them very delicious. So we did our mulberry muffins, our mulberry jellies. I shoved it in everything possible. And then there's still some, next year I want to be a little more on top of it, because then it also blankets a lot of my growing. I wonder if it's probably messing my soil up a little bit, because thousands of them drop all over the place. So I'm sure they're making like my soil very acid. And then over here I have some coneflowers, which are growing kind of next to that cherry tree. And then that's also elderberry next to it. So it's coneflowers. And I have some strawberry ground cover around there. And there's even comfrey behind that area. So I'm really doing a lot of perennials. Is that it, or there's more? Oh, I sent a lot. And then I didn't have it. It's funny, like I had tomatoes are still coming in. I did get a bunch of tomatoes, but they're still pretty green. Everything else that I grew for annual is just very slow. I have some basil coming in. I did get a few zucchini, and I had some cilantro, but I was a little lax with just the actual regular, just good old fashioned tomato type plant. And cucumbers, I've had no luck. I don't know what's going on. Even the community garden or my garden, I did not. I think I see some cucumbers may be coming, but I have not gotten one yet. Very far. I don't know if you guys had good cucumber seasons, but I did not. And I don't know if that's it, but not yet. Oh, there's the one cucumber. It's coming. I think I'll probably get it, but it's still very slow in coming. And again, I planted that God knows how many weeks ago. And then this is more of an overall. Then I have a peach tree, which is really hopefully coming. And it's it gets very heavy. The branches are really kind of bowing down. I'm trying to put stuff under to support them, but I'm hoping to get some peaches. Then I have calendula on that bed in front. I have kale. I have some Swiss chard in that bed. Then I have a Jerusalem artichoke or sunchoke behind that. well, that's a good safe area because right behind me, there's my neighbor's gate, and then it goes to concrete. So I found that to be a somewhat safe area where they won't go wild and take over everything. But I'm hoping to get some peaches because a few years ago I got peaches, but they were not the best. They had a lot of black spots and hard as a rock. But I'm crazy and I cut away the black and forced my I forced myself to eat. People thought I was crazy. I'm like, I ate probably way more than I should have, but I don't like to waste anything. But I'm hoping that they're looking a little better this year. And I think that might be it. Oh, there you go. There's a closer shot of the kale. And I finally found a good spot because that peach tree and everything I was really shading it out. So I realized the kale and Swiss chard like the shade. So for some reason I kept on planting that stuff in the sun. So that seems to be benefiting them by not being in the sun. And there's a close up of my peaches, which hopefully soon will be edible. And I think that's it, but there's my little.
Yeah. I want to back up. I had a question about one of those. Your hazelnut.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like propping? Where's your hazelnut?
It's
There.
the first
So
one
you're-
there.
Yeah, early.
You're like propping up your hazelnut with these
Oh yeah,
little
you said that.
tomato
Yeah,
things.
yeah, because as
Okay.
you said the other week they're getting. Well, I even have a fence behind me, which I'm a little lucky. So I literally took some string and like tied them up to the fence because they're also getting very heavy and really, like you mentioned, Michael, really bowing down to so. I tied up a bunch, then I did put a little tomato cage thing under there to hold them up a bit, and that seems to be doing the trick.
So, Chad,
Hey,
if you have any pieces of lumber laying around, the peach
Mhm.
trees in the orchard, I don't know, it's like peach year. So they were really loaded. And we have a couple guys one fellow's like a real carpenter. So anyway, what they did is they took some pieces of lumber that are around and made like an X and nailed it together in the middle
Mhm.
to support them. It was a simple thing, and it took the support of those branches that were really coming down.
Yeah, and I think again, I have a few tomatoes. I have stuff. It's coming down, yeah, but I don't think anything's gonna break. I think
Okay.
okay, but and I'm not handy, so I cannot even do anything with the lumber. But
Well, this really didn't require any carpentry skills. They just thought of the idea.
and did you have another question with the hazelnut? Did you finish, Michael? Or you were
that
just
was it. That was my question.
clarifying. Did you find a way to prop yours up, or they're all?
They're still kind of splayed out. I pounded the stakes in and then I started trying to tie them up some.
Mhm.
And it just didn't, they were just so massive and it just didn't seem like it was going well. And I
Yeah,
just,
that fence helped a lot. That fence behind me, so I wrap up the wire and tied it to the fence. Otherwise, that helped because they're right. They are getting very heavy. So
I'm thinking after the after the harvest, we'll probably trim them. So they're
yeah,
not as long.
but even I guess once you get the harvest, it's just going to be heavy. When you have peaches and hazelnuts, I guess each branch, that adds up. No matter what you do, it's going to kind of bend over. I think.
Still, I guess I hadn't heard about needing to prune them. I sort of thought they were no need for pruning hazelnuts, but I could be wrong.
Well, thank you.
I mean, looking at my sample, I'm definitely wrong. It should be pruned.
Oh.
And this brings us around to Shannon.
Hi.
Shannon,
Hi, how's it going?
great,
Okay.
thanks. Remind
No.
us where you are. You're not in Warwick, but you used to be here, and so we still let you into our group.
Yes, I miss Warwick. I miss living on the mountain. I used to live in Hewitt, at the top of Warwick Turnpike, at the top of the hill, with Way on as my backyard, and I miss it. Now I am in a suburb on the Jersey side of Philadelphia. So I'm in South Jersey where it's very, very hot and the lizards live, and there's no trees. So don't judge me. My garden is in chaos this year between working 3 jobs and going to grad school. It is definitely taken a back seat. So I had just sent these 3 pictures initially to be like, behold my squash. The pictures on the left and the right are the same explosion of plants. It's my compost. So on the right side, my compost is there. That's where my compost pit is. And we have a rabbit. So we have a lot of really, really great compost because I use my like scraps and stuff, but predominantly it's rabbit manure, which is amazing. It's supposedly the only manure that you can actually like put directly into your stuff without having to worry about scald or burn. It doesn't have to process like other manures do. So what happened was some butternut squash seeds had gotten in my compost. And this year, because I knew that I was going to be just swamped with life, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let them grow and see what happens. And this is what happened. And it's just kind of exploding out of there. I got to keep it off the neighbor's fence so it doesn't go through into their yard. But what's going on is it's the explosion of butternut squash, and then in between it is thistle. It's that purple thistle
Mm,
that is, native. It's a native. So that I think is deterring a lot of the normal stuff and creating habitat for its own little ecosystem in there. So it's harder for the squash vine borers to get in there with the thistle there, but I'm sure the squash bugs are still in there. But it's taken off. It's insane. And then the front is my front window where I planted the zucchini in the center and the yellow squash on the outsides, and they are super duper happy. It's amazing. The squash vine borers decimated the zucchini root or like the stem, but the plant is still doing fine. I don't know how. But the squash vine borers did get to it. Like you can see it's nasty, but the plant itself seems to be very happy. So they're producing super good. And I was just kind of like, look at what's happening with minimal effort because of good compost.
That's my kind of plant. That's my kind of plant. I like that.
Where it's just like, just go for it. I mean, the zucchini, when I prepped that bed, because that's like a brick front bed that was like attached to the house. I prepped that with my compost at the beginning of the season when I put the plants in, and it's just taken off from there. I'm super happy with my compost. It's the rabbit manure. That's the secret. Everything else is like in misery. So the pots are my purple kohlrabi, which is doing amazing. I'm surprised that those white moths, those cabbage moths, haven't totally taken it out. But it's doing super great. Normally I would have to spray it with BT, but for this year for some reason it's doing all right. I mean, you can tell something's kind of nibbling on it, but normally it would be like covered in cabbage moths. I don't know why it's not. The cabbage moths are still out there. But for some reason they're leaving it alone for the most part. What happened was I prepped these pots in March and planted peas in everything on St. Patrick's Day. Supposedly you plant peas on St. Patrick's Day for good luck or something. So I had planted peas and everything for St. Patrick's Day, and I did get peas, but then, it was my first time growing peas. It was all an experiment. So I was like, I didn't know when to stop picking them. I didn't know when to start picking them. So I kind of just left the pea plants in there to die. And then I had planted kale. You can see it in the orange pot on the left, and it is now gone to seed. It's bolted. But I planted that to feed the rabbit. So she'll still eat. Like I can still go out there and take kale off of that, and she'll still eat it because she doesn't care that it's bitter. But it has gone to seed, and I can save the seeds and reuse them. Potatoes are what was in the blue pots and the pot in the back. The plants have died, and I did take potatoes out of it this week to give my father-in-law, but they're waiting in there for me to harvest them. I just haven't gotten a chance to do it yet, but the potatoes are in there ready for harvest. Center picture is my front bed gone haywire. It's yarrow, it's white yarrow, mint, echinacea. There are bell peppers next to echinacea on the other side. Parsley, oregano, and mallow started growing, and mallow supposedly you can eat the flowers. I have a thing where I like edible flowers. So I left the mallow there, and then against the fence in the back where my car is, where the red car is, that's all strawberries. So strawberries, and I'm still getting strawberries. They're not as good as they were in May. I feel like the cold weather, those first strawberries in May when it was still cold at night, I feel tasted better than these extremely hot strawberries. And then on the right is my sunchokes in pots. I grow my sunchokes in pots. Rosemary's in the bottom right corner, and my sage is the same type of variety as Chad sage, but it's kind of like mixed in with the grass there because I don't like to weed whack the grass. I don't like to take it out. So it's mixed in there.
Have you thought about, a lot of people just leave their clippings on the lawn, but if you use a grass catcher and you catch some in the grass and you sort of
Well,
set
no.
it around those things.
Well, here's what we do. So we leave the clippings on the lawn to dry out, and then I collect the dried out clippings and I use them for sun cover in my pots. But when it comes to weed whacking, I don't like to weed whack too close to my stuff, because I end up cutting my stuff. Like I'll end up taking out a piece of the rosemary, or I'll end up taking out a piece of the,
Yes, I've done that way too often.
and it makes me so sad every time. I'm like, damn it. So what I'll usually do is I'll rip the grass out by hand. But again, my summer semester of grad school just ended on Friday, and I'm so exhausted. So like, I'm just kind of like, I'm so pleased with how the echinacea took off. Last year I only had 6 echinacea blooms. This year it's like exploded. So
So,
super
so,
happy about that.
so try this, try this. Use a grass catcher on your mower. Don't just put it on the lawn and sort of ding them up, but use a grass catcher, take the grass out of the back and spread it like 2 or 3 inches thick right next up to your herbs. And you'll
What?
find that you're making a moat around them. It will sort of stop the grass.
Oh, you mean from where I'm weed whacking, right? So
Yeah.
this grass, this stupid lawn, this grass is a Zoya, and it's insane how like you can cut out like entire just like pieces of it. But it has proved to be very resilient to my methods of like I put in beds, and a lot of the beds have been like taken back over because I'm not like on it. So I'm gonna end up being working from scratch on some of the beds I made last year. But I'll try it. I'll try piling them up for sure. But the Azoya is definitely
Hmm.
an adversary.
You want to keep that because that's a very aggressive summer. That's a summer grass. That's a warm season grass. You're down in Philly, so it's warmer down there. So it's a very warm season grass. So most grasses that we use up here of Kentucky bluegrass, rise, best used in their cool season. So they grow very strongly in the spring and in the fall, and in the summer they die back. They don't die out. They just die back. These lawns brown up unless you water them. But zoysia is just the opposite. It doesn't really green up until after the frosts are gone in May. And once the summer hits, it's extremely aggressive, and it puts out tons of stolons. It's probably the worst grass you can have around a garden. You're gonna take it over, and unless you're out there every other day pulling up stolons, it's gonna take over.
This
So-
is the truth. Super accurate. So like my neighbor who hates me because of my garden. I don't know if I don't know, did you guys include the picture of the of my poke tree, of my poke? There it is. That's my beautiful poke tree. And I kept it because it's a native species and the birds eat the berries, and I love it, and it provides shade in the area. But my neighbor hates me because I have things like this in my yard. And he's like, when we moved in, he was like, "Oh, you're so lucky we got a Zoya. It's gonna make for a beautiful lawn, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Uh-huh, I'm planning on digging it up." And he was like, "Good luck." And he was not kidding. The stupid Azoya is my nemesis. But this is my beautiful my poke weed. It's huge. I don't know if you can get a good idea of how big it is, but it is a full-blown tree. And I just love it. I think it's amazing. You can eat poke, but you have to put it through several you have to cook it. You have to put it through several different um like if you boil it, you have to put it through several water changes, or it will make you sick. It is toxic. But it's not toxic if you cook it enough. Supposedly it was a staple crop of Native Americans in the area. So I love it. I like having that native species, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to keep it. The Go ahead.
So I see that when I think, oh, I don't want any children in the neighborhood eat this. I just pull it up. But you let yours grow, and this is what it grows out into.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't think any kids, none of my neighbors are going to come into onto my property. You know what I mean? Like, we have children in the neighborhood. They're not going to come anywhere near. Like, I have a fence. They'd have to come past the fence, and it's just not that kind of neighborhood. But no, I don't worry about children eating them. We did have one last year, and it was a quarter of the size that this one is, and I basically just left it. I left it over winter, and when it came back, it became this. The ivy underneath it is a non-native species. That's an invasive species. I'm just kind of letting it take over for now because I'm one and busy, and two, I don't know, I just like the green, man. So, but it's not a poison ivy. It's like I can't remember what it is. It's like creeping Charlie or something like that. It is an
No,
invasive
no, that's
species.
5-leaf ivy. That's not creeping
I think it's
Charlie.
called winter creep, but you see it like on a lot of buildings, it's like the typical ivory, either Boston ivory or that, but it's very aggressive.
It is. It's not. I'm not gonna get. Oops.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna get. It's not. I'm not. I can't get. I'm not like allergic to it, right? It won't like make me sick
No,
like
no,
Oh,
poison
no,
ivy.
no, not at all. And it puts out another, it put in the fall, it gets a bright yellow, a bright orangey red. It's actually nice.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
figured it. Oh, go ahead.
I have it all over my woods. It's not that bad. I mean, the vines get in the flower bed and I just yank them out. It's called 5-leaf ivy.
I had figured that I mean, I'm like, it's not, I'm not having an allergic reaction to
No.
it, and I like it, but I know it's not a native species. I know it's an invader. But like at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, I'll pull it back. And it just sprung right back. So I'm like, you know what? Have at it, man. My these pots here, so you can see my dead peas from the fall, from the spring. But I planted the peas with beets, and my beets are super amazing. I've been having really good beets. I have a giant beet waiting in my fridge for me to cook it. But the beets are super happy. They've been really good. On the right, I bought Swiss chard with the intention of giving it to the rabbit. It was like, oh, I'll grow all this rabbit food. She loves the kale. So I got the Swiss chard. I was like, okay, Bun will love this. And I don't know, man. I guess it was just too dense for her, but it upset her tummy. I gave it to her once. It upset her tummy really bad. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to give Boone chard anymore. So now no one's eating it. But what happened was the pot that I put the chard in, I had grown basil in last year. So now I have volunteer basil coming up in it. And because my compost, I mean, you're not supposed to put seeds in there, but seeds get in there, hence my giant butternut squash. And that tomato plant that's growing out of my chard bucket is a volunteer that was in my compost. So, in the back is the red maple that my mother-in-law gave me that I'm growing in a pot because I want to be able to take it to wherever we eventually move to. His name is Hank. And then Chad, you had asked about my avocado. The pot with the little makeshift fence around it, with its own little fence around it, volunteers are the best. I love that's like my butternut squash is all volunteer. That tomatoes, I mean, I was not growing tomatoes this year. So that volunteer showed up and I was like, hey, maybe I'll get some tomatoes this year. But that back pot with its own little makeshift mini fence around it is my avocado. And what happened was the avocado sprouted in my compost. I was like, oh my God, I've tried many a time to grow avocado and it never works. And I saw the avocado growing in my compost and I was like, oh my God, avocado. So I dug it out and put it in a pot. And that poor thing has been through some stuff. My cat ate all the leaves off of it. I was like, oh my God, it's going to die. And it grew back from that. And then she ate all the leaves off of it again. I was like, oh my God, it's going to die. And it came back. And then I was like, okay, the cat keeps eating it. So I got to put it outside during the winter. So it spent the winter in my shed and did really well in there. Like, I thought it was going to get too cold, but I guess with our mild winter this year, it was fine. It did really well. So I took it out for spring and something showed up and ate all the leaves off of it. I was like, oh my God, it's going to die. And then it sprung back again. So this poor thing has seen some stuff. And that's why it has its own little makeshift I took a tomato cage, flipped it upside down, and surrounded it with chicken wire because just want it to be able to live. But the thing is so small, even though it's 4 years old, the thing is so small because every year it has to start from scratch growing leaves again. And that's my avocado tree. It's the one in the brown pot in the back.
Yeah,
It's a real survivor.
It is
Yeah.
a surprise. I am shocked. The top, because it's been topped 3 times. She ate the top right off of it. So I was like, oh my God. So it sprung up it grew another top. And then she ate that top off. So it sprung up another top. So I'm like, oh my God, this plant.
Shannon,
I-
here you are working 3 jobs. Didn't you think about like marketing these avocado leaves in place of catnip? I mean, there could be big business potential there, right?
Yeah.
That cats loved avocado leaves so much. I don't know what came and ate it off when it was outside. Like after the winter, when I put it out in the spring, and was like, yay, now you can grow. And something showed up and ate every leaf off of it. I was like, oh my God, what happened here? So I don't know what ate the leaves off in the spring, but something really enjoyed it.
Okay, well let's move ahead. Oh, Carmen is not with us. She sent a lot of pictures. She has harvested a lot of stuff. I didn't want to put all of her pictures up, but anyway, here are some of the things that Carmen has hosted. But I really want to get us
Town of Montgomery.
want to get us onto our shimmy in place. As we've always say, sitting for a whole hour is really tough on a human body. So we're going to take a minute break. We hope everyone will stand up and shimmy in place. You can do it off camera if you wish. Most people prefer to do it that way. And we'll be back in a minute. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We even leave the camera running because I hope if people watching the video, they also take a minute to stand up. Chad, do you want to tell us about your farm to table dinner?
Sure. Thank you for advertising it. It's going to be our first annual it's a fundraiser, we should say, for Grow Local Greenwood Lake. I should have picked that picture. And we decided, our community garden is open to all, free, no membership. And we do a lot of events. And we realized that we do need to probably bring in some money to the non-for-profit that we run. So we decided let's have like an annual farm to table dinner. So it's going to be at the Elks Lodge in Greenwood Lake. And it's going to be, we have a local chef, Jamie Heller of The Buzz. We can have a nice menu put together. And, we're trying, right now I'm going to different local farms and trying to source everything as locally as I could. And, hopefully it's going to have a nice, fun event, some music, talk, getting together with people, and just having a good time. So hopefully you guys could join us. And I know some of you here already are, but just spreading the word. Thank you.
Hey, Chad, congratulations on the Dirt Award.
Yes, we won Dirt Kitchen Garden Tour. We second year in a row, best community garden. So that was pretty that yeah, I was worried this year we had a lot of competition. Last year wasn't as much because like it was first post COVID, but I was very surprised. It was I heard from other people because I had to be home. I had to be in my garden giving the tours, but there was some really beautiful gardens and it's a really fun event. And I recommend if you ever get the chance to take part in it, it's a great day. But we are very proud to win that. Thank you.
And of course, as the winner, you can say things like, of course, all gardeners are winners, right? I mean, you just have a
Yes.
garden, you're a winner. So
Yeah, it wasn't about winning, but it was nice. You know, it's more about the fun experience and good time.
So everyone, our annual zero waste picnic is Wednesday evening at the town park, and everyone's invited to join us for that. We've already got a very interesting array of dishes that'll be brought. It's a potluck dinner. Bring your own plates and stuff too. We hope nobody throws anything out. We don't want it to be a disposable dinner. So zero waste, town park. If you want more to, Christy, you're on mute.
You have 6 o'clock on there, but we've been advertising 6:30.
That's right, 6:30. I should show up at 6 just to make sure everything's
Okay.
ready. Okay. The Sustainable Warwick Book Club is reading a fascinating book called Entangled Life. It's all about fungi. It's amazing. You know, I think every gardener knows that if you take care of your mycelium will take care of all your plants. It's just such an essential thing, but it's just fascinating. I'm just a part way through it, and it's really a good read. If you have time to join the book club, you're welcome to join us. I think I've mentioned before, we are an affiliate of the Bad Girls Book Clubs, so where half the girls don't read the book and half the girls don't show up. So even if you don't read the book, you're welcome to join us. You're still having crop swaps, Chad?
Yes, every Wednesday, if you have extra, or you just want to come by and say hello, 13 Poplar Street. If you have any extra cucumber, especially cucumbers, since I can't grow any, or you know, tomatoes, come on down and you know get the little share the harvest is the idea. So until October I'll be there.
We're
Wait,
kind of
so-
contemplating on August 28th. I didn't write August in there, the 28th. We're kind of contemplating not having the August 28th meeting. What does everyone here think about that idea?
Right,
I'll
I
be
mean, I'm saying last year we just did from July, August, September, we did one meeting per month. So
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that because it seems like everyone gets busy, but that's my call. But we will go with the consensus.
I would skip it. That's also, isn't it the beginning of Labor Day weekend?
Mm.
Oh,
No, Labor Day.
No, because it's a Monday. It's the weekend before. Yeah.
it's the Monday before Labor Day.
Right.
Okay, okay.
But I'm all for skipping it also.
Yeah, I'll be away. I won't be able to attend.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so let's plan on skipping it then, and we'll see everyone into September. I just noticed I got something at the farmers market. The Cornell Cooperative Extension has a couple programs. I didn't put in some of their programs, but these two sounded like they might be of interest. Lawn elimination and reduction. That's September 9th at 9 a.m. I like that, 9 at 9. And then on the 23rd at 10 a.m., they'll have a thing on nature journaling. It
Sorry,
sounded like,
is that
especially
a
when you draw.
location or is that Zoom? Like, where's that? Like a place?
No, I'm pretty sure that's held in Middletown. That's held in person in Middletown. And if you want more details, contact Cornell Cooperative Extension of Orange County.
Okay.
And there's the phone number to do it. Now we have some questions, and the first one is from Chad. Go ahead, Chad. You want to explain your question?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I don't even know because like sometimes for many years I grew nasturtiums, which are my favorite, and then I let them grow and the seeds dropped in the soil, and then they came back for like 3 or 4, and I was like, oh, I love this. Like I had my little. Then sometimes they just stop. Then like a year, then they stop coming. Like what? Why they stop coming? And then I had that Malabar spinach going in the community garden. You know, I grew it the 1 year, then I couldn't even find it again. But then I found that it was coming up naturally, and then this year none. So I don't know if there's I don't know if someone, you know, maybe we're accidentally weeding them out early on, or I don't. This is just more of a frustration. I don't even know if there's a reason for this, but I kind of was getting used to that and getting spoiled by thinking it was going to come back every year. and it stopped. So I don't know, maybe someone has a reason or why it
I
stopped.
know when we did
You-
our garden, we had like cilantro. We planted it the first year, and then every year we had like some cilantro. It was like, really, it was great. And I was
Chad,
like,
do
wait
you,
a minute, we should be planting cilantro. Why don't we have any cilantro? So this sort of thing happens.
Chad, do
For,
you, prepare the soil the same way every year? Because maybe some years you turn the soil over and the seeds aren't on the surface, they're brought under. Maybe, are you consistent with the way you prepare the bed?
Yeah, no, I never turn my soil. I just add to it. I never till my soil.
I mean, some years, yeah, it could just be the way that, it could, I saw certain plants, they get a late, they germinate early and they get a late frost, to knock off the seedling.
I agree. I think it could be, I agree. I think it could be dependent on the weather too. Like
Yeah.
if you have more rain or if you have less rain, I'll tell you, my borage, I grow borage and I planted it once, and then last year it came back with a vengeance on its
Yeah.
own.
Mhm.
But this year I literally have one plant. So
Yeah,
Same
it's
with
right. It's
borage
like,
this year, I bought seeds for a cover crop and I planted it in one of my raised beds and I dumped so many seeds and very little germinated. I finally got them to germinate. They grew, I turned the soil over and let it rot, and now I got all borage coming out of nowhere. Which is fine, I'll regrow it, but I dumped so much more borage seeds and nothing happened, and now they're just reseeding themselves. So I think maybe the rain, it was dry in the spring, maybe animals got to it, I don't
yeah,
know.
I got spoiled, and I guess it stopped. I was like, oh, I have nasturtiums every year, and I have Malabar spinach, but then it was like, where is it?
I had the same experience this year, Chad, because there are flowers that I let reseed every year. I tend to let arugula reseed. I let it go and it hasn't resurfaced yet. It usually comes up a few times. And a lot of the things that I'm accustomed to just coming up. And seed I put in the ground didn't grow this spring. So I think it's this weird year.
don't forget that 90-degree day we had in March.
Well, it was
It's been crazy
it was
weather.
a funky spring. It was like hot and then it was cold and then it didn't rain, and things are
And-
growing now.
this winter, the winter was warm too. You guys had more snowfall than I did, but we had less snowfall than we usually do, and it was warmer.
Yeah, we had I think we had one snow maybe. I don't know. My kids didn't have I don't think they even had a snow, maybe one snow day. Yeah, it was strange. Yeah, okay. So I guess it's just maybe a weird thing.
I think it was just a fluke.
Yeah, just to keep us on our toes. You were like, what's the reason? To keep the gardeners on our toes, to make sure we're kind of paying attention.
All right,
And
like
also-
you're getting too cocky, Chad. I'm gonna put you back in place.
Right. You can't have your Malabar every year just come up automatically.
We're gonna
That's
make you
not how
fail. Yeah, we're gonna make you fail this year to show us. Yeah.
Well, if you want to
Yeah.
go, conspiracy theory is always a fun American pastime. It was a plot by the seed companies to make you purchase new seed.
Yes. They coded it.
There you go. And just Chad, yesterday after going on the tour and talking to everybody, it seemed the majority of the people I spoke to, everybody's having a tough cucumber year. It's not just you. There's like a cucumber drought happening all over.
Having a pepper issue, major pepper issue. I can't get peppers to worst year I've ever had. So
That's
Sarah,
why we
Sarah, you got cucumbers, right, Sarah?
I have cucumbers,
All right.
but
see?
but I did have cucumber problems for 2 years, and I was getting soil disease and fungal diseases. So I've moved my cucumbers each year, and I went and I bought seeds from Johnny that were resistant to every disease now you could possibly think of. And last year and this year, so far, my cucumbers are growing. But this will amaze you. My zucchini plant did not grow. When does a zucchini plant not grow?
Yeah, zucchini. I had much more last year, and I had a good one-time harvest, and then they all shriveled up. So I did not get. Yeah,
not
last year was
one
crazy. I had a
zucchini.
ton of them. So
Not one zucchini.
wow,
wow.
that is crazy.
But I have great tomatoes and that's all that matters.
There you go.
My patty pan squash did well this year. First time I grew it, but my zucchini was a huge flush. I probably got 2 dozen or more, and then they started coming sporadically. But the patty pan, I don't know. Every year I get one failure, no matter what. It always switches around. Something doesn't come out.
That's why you grow 25 varieties of things, Mark. So you get a failure and it's like you still have plenty to eat and
Yeah.
for all your neighbors. It's great,
Yeah.
Mark. Let's go on to the next question. Sally, you brought this up at the beginning. Why don't you go ahead and explain? Well, I just put a simple question, but go ahead and explain your situation there.
Yeah, I am a novice gardener, and during COVID bought about $100 worth of organic seeds, thinking that would really cover me. And now I'm hanging on to them. So it's been 3 years, and it says on the packs that they're no longer any good. So I'm just wondering, and then Sarah made a good suggestion about testing them out, maybe starting this winter, right? By putting them in.
Does the package actually, I mean, I see them say, you know,
Best Buy.
package for sale by December 31st, 2020 or something like that. But I've never heard them say these seeds expire on July 2nd, 2021. I've never seen anything like that.
Mine have an expiration date, but it's not specific as that, but it says that's like December of 2020. But and yet I'm still using them and they're still growing
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like the ones. It's like what they put on. They'll put the salt. Salt has an expiration date. Like
Yeah.
salt has an expiration date. The salt never goes bad. But they
Yeah.
just sell more things. It's just this. And the other thing too you can do is what usually happens when the seeds get older, the germination rate goes down. So maybe when the first, the germination rate 90 or 95%, and then the second year it's like 90%, third year it's 85. So you might just have to add more seeds. So you instead of putting down 5 seeds, you put down 7 seeds or 10 seeds. It's just
So
you're going to get something growing.
Sally, the other thing is the different seeds have a different length of time they tend to keep. If you go online and look for a chart that says how long are seeds viable, you can look at these charts and the lettuces seem to last long, like fairly long. I grow a lot of different types of tomatoes, so the way I germinate them, I get a really high rate of germination. So I usually get 3 years out of a packet of tomato seeds, for example.
Oh, wow.
But the germination does go down as the time goes on. The one thing I know that they say does not last are parsnips. I don't know if you bought parsnips.
I don't think I did.
But yeah, like I said, in the winter, you can research a lot of these things. That's how I found out a lot of this. But get a chart that tells you how long seeds are viable. It also depends on how they were stored. If it's damp in your basement, maybe not. They have to be dry. But in, say, February, look at these things that show you how to test seeds. And you don't put the whole packet in. The idea is just to take maybe 5 seeds and test germinating them. And then you'll know if, when it's time to actually start them, if you're going to get germination. The problem in the north is if you don't do this and you count on those seeds being viable, by the time you find out they're not viable, you've missed the beginning of a growing cycle. Or you just decide they're not viable and you spend another ton of money on seeds.
Yeah.
It also might help if you I store them in glass containers. Like my wife was on a salsa kick, so all the glass salsa jars, I would store the seeds in them. I would just cut out the label with the information and then put the seeds directly in the jar. And if it's, the jar is totally dry, you're not going to get any kind of moisture in, and don't store them. The other thing too is don't store them or don't put them in the sunlight, because by mistake I bought some of the seeds in the glass jar, put them in the garden, did some other work, and the seeds actually, even though they're bone dry, they contain moisture, and the sun will just pull it out of there, and you'll desiccate the seeds to the point where it will germinate. But don't put it in direct sun. Don't put it in a cool, dry place. The glass jars are a good way to go for help
And
make that to help expand the time that you have the seed viable.
Okay.
and if you get anything with desiccants in them, you know, something that keeps stuff inside dry, put that in your seed jars.
Yeah, I save all those.
So use a glass jar, and then like if you get like vitamins or something, it will come with a little
Oh, yeah?
packet of desiccant.
Mhm.
Take that and put it in your
Oh,
seed
okay.
jars,
Okay.
in glass seed jars. And you know.
Yeah.
Folks, we need to keep moving along if we're going to finish by 9. A friend of mine, this happened to him. He's not so far from here. He lives in East Branch, which is, if you get on Route 17 and you keep driving west all the way through Sullivan County and you get into Delaware County, he had a 20-minute hailstorm, mothball-sized hail. And he shared a couple pictures. He's like, he just took all the peppers off the plants that he could, any of the tomatoes that were left. I don't know if you can see, like,
The
I mean,
whole-
this was like his squash patch, and it's just done. And this guy's a little bit of a like a homesteader kind of guy.
To worry about this happening every
So-
year.
So my question is, and we don't really have time to discuss it, but I just want to plant the question in people's minds. Gosh, if you had a 20-minute hailstorm, what would you do? Of course, you'd be grateful you're a gardener, not a farmer. But you know, if
Cry
so-
and curse.
What'd you say?
Cry and curse.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I guess if you have any time to prep, you know, if you have any time to prep, maybe try to cover some stuff, but otherwise, you know, acts of nature like that are really difficult.
yeah.
I don't think he had much warning that he had, and how would he have covered his, you know, squash patch like this?
Right.
Yeah,
This Saturday
exactly.
night, I would just cry. I would cry internally and just, you can do. There's nothing much you can do. And it's so random too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So anyway, everyone talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. I've got these temperature charts from AccuWeather, just shows Warwick's weather. You know, we really have had a pretty moderate summer. I looked up, I think the record, the average high for today is supposed to be 82. So that's what this line is. And then on the 19th, it'll go down to 81 and 80. But you see, we've barely been across the average high this month of August, mostly below. And they're not forecasting many days above the average high for the rest of the month.
I don't see anything above 90. They're very little above 90.
Well,
These
it says
close,
90 here, but that red line is actually 82.
Oh, okay. So I'm just thinking like usually like a day over 90s, like oh, I always think it was like a hot day. And I only see one back on July 5th that hit the line. So I don't know, it felt hotter, but I guess it's not that bad of a summer.
Now, looking ahead, it looks like the 28th is actually going to be a really cool day. Does that want to reevaluate whether we're going to have the show that day? I guess not. Okay, so I think that's about all for tonight. Does anybody have any final questions before we sign
do.
off?
Michael, do you have any predictions for the winter? Like, or do you do like? Can we get weather predictions for the winter? Because I've been hearing we're supposed to get some kind of like super duper snowy winter. The whole Northeast we're going to get slammed with El Nino. I guess is doing something down in the Pacific, and you know, has anyone heard that, or can
You know,
that's a question we can ask.
if you go on that AccuWeather website, it does give their monthly forecasts, and you could click ahead to November, December and see what they've got. Although this does
Well,
remind me of a
almanac.
story. This does remind me of a story that I'd like to share about a Native American reservation where this young man had gone off to college, and people thought, oh, you know, this guy's going to college. He's home for the summer. We should have him do something. So they put him in charge of the summer recreation. And then, you know, he wasn't very old or wise, but like one Tuesday afternoon, he realized he didn't have anything for the kids to do. And if he didn't have anything for the kids to do, he was going to have a lot of trouble on his hands. So he said, let's go get some firewood. So that was the activity for Tuesday afternoon, gathering firewood. And, you know, that weekend he happened to hear on the news that they were predicting there was going to be an early winter. So he said, oh, gosh, you know, maybe we should do like this firewood gathering like every Tuesday. So, every Tuesday they're doing this, and then the kids are getting a little bit bored. So he's starting to have them do contests where they're going to who can stack it as high as possible. And then things are going along, and then later, here's another weather report. Yeah, we think we're going to have an early winter, and we think it's going to be an especially deep winter this year. Oh, okay. So they started gathering firewood like twice a week. Finally they said, yeah, folks, we think we're going to have a really long, deep, cold winter. You really better get ready for this winter. The guy says, we can't find any more firewood around here. What are we going to do? He finally decides he's going to call up the television station. Well, how do you do your long-term forecasting? And of course they say, oh, well, what we do is watch the Indians. And this year they went out earlier than ever for firewood, and they've stacked it higher than ever, and they've got more than ever. So we think it's going to be early, cold, deep winter.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great
Thank you.
week, and we'll see you in September for the next one.
Okay, bye-bye.